Two things actually, and they're kind of tied together. When you have a seller that has a mortgage payment, or that has a mortgage payment that's higher than market rent,
Mhm.
how do we deal with that? And that kind of ties in with John's deal that he recently had that we went over at in the VIP session.
Well, there's a few things. I'll hit a few, and I'm sure Brian will, and Steve will play cleanup. And that is, you just have to have that frank conversation, Rick, that you might not be able to handle that on the market, and you might be coming back to him. Is this an AO?
Um, well, in this particular case, yes.
Okay, so even easier. My point is, you gotta have that open conversation. One of my first AOs was a high-end house in Smithfield, Rhode Island, that I told him, I don't know, I think you're pushing the number, or I'll be pushing the number. And I went back and he subsidized like $268 or whatever it was a month. Payment was up in the 20-something $100 range. So he might have to subsidize. Is he gonna be able to handle, he or she gonna be able to handle that? But I'll also tell you, just like the pricing issue, we talked about this in the last call, or just like the buyer in hand issue, when you go back and talk to them, it's a different conversation than in theory. No, I don't want to subsidize. But hey, good news, I have a buyer. Not so great news, I can't get you to the monthly number.
Okay.
It's just different conversation than in theory. I might not get you there. Then you're already starting out of the gate incorrectly.
Okay. Awesome.
That's just my thoughts. Knee jerk as usual. Brian, Steve,
Same. Just
same.
letting them know the deal.
Yes. Well, one comment, and this is actually the opposite of what you guys talked about. John Clark's AO, that was the one we kind of like networked with everybody at the event. The guy's asking price is $1 million, and his monthly is that he accepted as an AO for what we suggested was 4,500. I knew that payment was low, and I wanted to see how much room Nick had to play around with that number. And I guess that's the other question, right? Is in this situation, the monthly that this guy is wanting is most likely lower than that's going to set up the buyer for success. But I'd rather, in my opinion, be there and let Nick surprise him with more monthly, unless I'm looking at it the wrong way, Chris.
No, you're good because you have to add taxes. It'll be higher.
Yeah.
Yep. You're fine.
Chris, would you plant the seed with the seller, just based on what you see in the market, that this may be something that's not doable, or you just wait until you get the buyer and then approach it?
Yeah, I personally, I'd be blunt and say, especially if it's an AO, I might be coming back to you. I'll give it my best.
Okay.
If it's a lease purchase, wouldn't you want to look at also the overall picture, right? If you get a big non-refundable deposit and all 3 paydays are like 100 grand, so your negative cash flow, like 100, 200 bucks a month, right? Holistically, wouldn't that still potentially be something you want to do, right?
Yeah, so here's an example of what Matthew just said. One of our earlier, not our first, sandwiches, I even remember the street, it was Iroquois. I said to him, he owned a couple gyms and he was stuck with his house and tenant left. And I said, look, I don't think we're going to get you to your number, so we're going to have to do it through our AO method, however I explained that. But I said, let me go out. I may be able to stay in the middle, because this guy did want us to stay in the middle. And I told him I couldn't, based on his monthly. We went out, and when Nick had the buyer meeting, the only thing we did differently is we followed the checklist, which says, one of the many things, it says is how much can you afford extra monthly to put towards your down payment? And then just be quiet. It's in the script. It's in the monthly. It's in the checklist for the buyer meeting. They said $300 something. We said, okay, call the seller and said we could stay in the middle. We just created $300 something a month. So it just depends on what the deal is, Matthew. You might want to be honest and say, I may or may not be able to stay in the middle. Because presumably if you're having a sandwich conversation, they want you in the middle. Yep. So be honest and say, I might not be able to. Why? There might not be enough profit in it for me. That makes sense, you guys? Or are there questions on that? Because I know I go very slowly usually.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, the other question is on a lease purchase, when the seller wants substantially more than PITI for his mortgage payment, if the market rent supports it, is there any reason not to go with it?
I can't think of an example where we ever did, but unless it's drastically low, like grossly low, his mortgage, then his or her mortgage. But I don't know. Has anyone done extra money in a lease purchase above the mortgage? Anyone? Brian did 8, 9 right away. Did you do anything above?
No, he just finances equity. And again, I just make payments to him quarterly, but not
Yeah.
month. Yeah. But it's
No,
it's
instead
his
of-
equity, not extra cash flow. It comes off the balance.
I
Of the
mean,
equity.
the way it's coming, principal only, it's still gonna come out on your payday 3 anyway.
Yep.
Okay, yep, that's good.
No, I've talked to some sellers who have like, what, $50,000 on a $500,000 house and the payment's like, there's like $1,500 worth of spread in there. Yeah, sure. You could look at that.
With some of you, I've done what Brian said and just said, if it's a huge amount, just say, we'll split it. That's fair. If you have to be, especially if you're looking for a deal right away. There's no wrong answer.
Okay, cool.
But
Thank you.
again, only if it's like Brian said, where it's tiny.
Yeah, and in this particular case, the PITI was 4,400. The guy wanted 6,000 a month, but the market rent is definitely over 6,000 a month. I don't know what the sale price is on it.
So deal by deal, you guys, if you're thinking this
Yep.
through, deal by deal.
And I would always position that because they're not the same. So he doesn't get lump sum in 5 years and payments in 5 years. So if he wants money, I would always position the term to be higher, to be longer. Otherwise, what's he going to pick? Like, make him decide.
Yeah, and this is a lease purchase. It's not a sub-2 owner finance, so.
That's what I mean. Like, regardless of the deal structure, like lump sum out in the future is the best I can do for you. So that if, like, say, if you're having a 7-year, if you're having a 5-year discussion, I'd be like, this is the best I can do for you in terms of the term. If you want monthly payments, then we're going to look at pushing the term out. I've always done that because otherwise it's the same thing. You're giving them the same offer 2 different ways.
Okay,
Good, Rick? Helpful?
yep, that's very helpful.
All right, now go get 3 more deals.